following program is a production of Pioneer Public Television. Major funding for your legislators is provided by Move Minnesota, a statewide coalition fighting for a 10-year commitment to fixing our dire transportation needs. A safe, reliable transportation system strengthens Minnesota's economy. Join the conversation at movemn.org. Additional funding provided by Flaherty and Hood has provided quality legal and legislative services to clients in Greater Minnesota for more than 20 years. Our legal team focuses on municipal employment and environmental law, while our lobbyists energetically represent clients at the state capitol. Online at flaherty-hood.com. MAPE members, making Minnesota clean waters, safe communities, quality education, and veterans care happen. We work hard for Minnesotans. Live from St. Paul, Minnesota, we welcome you to the 35th session of Your Legislators, a roundtable discussion featuring state lawmakers who are prepared to answer your questions and discuss important issues affecting the citizens of Minnesota. Now, here is your moderator for tonight's program, Barry Anderson.
Good evening and welcome to this week's version of Your Legislators. We're delighted that you have joined us on this rainy but pleasant spring day for a discussion of public policy issues, and we have, as always, a distinguished panel of guests to help us in that effort. A couple of housekeeping notes. First of all, I want to thank former Senator John Howe, who filled in last week. I was off to the Board of Law Examiners meeting in Chicago. I would rather have been here, but nonetheless, we needed to have someone fill in, and he did an admirable job, and we're delighted that he was able to assist us. I also want to remind you that this is your program and invite you to call in your questions or send them to us via Twitter or Facebook, all of the various fancy electronic methods that we have available to you. The instructions will appear on your screen. This is your program, hence the catchy name, Your Legislators, and so we want to hear from you. Send your questions in, and we'll see that they get to our distinguished panel of guests. We begin this program, as we do each week, by introducing that panel who will help us unravel the mysteries of St. Paul. All of our guests this week are regulars. They've been with us in the past. And I begin with District 21, Red Wing, Senator Matt Schmidt. Have I got that right?
You've got it right.
Pronounce that correctly?
I always tell folks you can say it however you want, just don't forget the M.
See, there you go. Exactly. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and committees you serve on, what you do when you're not in the legislature, and so forth.
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of Red Wing, and I have a consulting firm outside of the legislature. And in the legislature, I'm pleased to serve on a number of committees, the Jobs, Agriculture, Rural Development Committee, Energy and Environment. There's a finance panel that oversees spending in those areas. Also, they gave me the gavel for the Game and Fish Subcommittee, and finally the Capital Investment Committee. So it keeps a young guy busy.
To keep the details straight, I think you might have replaced Senator Howe. Am I right about that?
That's right, yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, very good. We're delighted that you could join us. Also joining us from District 38, Lino Lake, Senator Roger Chamberlain. Senator Chamberlain, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Roger Chamberlain, live in Lino Lake with my wife. Been there for 10 years. She's been there for 20. District 38 serves from a pretty large district on the west side, from Blaine all the way over through Delwood and up to through Hugo, and on the south side to North Oaks. My job in the outside legislature is work for Thrivent Financial representative for them, and I serve on K-12 committee. I gave up taxes to be on that committee, and then state government and finance. I'm lead on that committee.
And finally, I think you would be our veteran legislator, probably here longer than anyone else, Representative Denny McNamara, District 54B, Hastings. Do I have that right? I think I have that right.
Well, I think you do, Barry, and it's glad to be back again. It's always an honor to be here and talk with you and hear what people have to say. I've been in the legislature 7 terms, 14 years. I was a landscape contractor for 30-plus years. I've lived in Hastings all my life, graduate of the University of Minnesota, Carlson School of Business, and then I chair the Environment, Natural Resources Policy and Finance Committee in the House, and we're now headed to conference committee with Chairman Tomassoni to work out our differences and get a bill passed in the next week. I also serve on the Ways and Means Committee and on the Mining and Outdoor Recreation Committee that Chair Hackbarth chairs, and I serve for the first time on transportation. So excited to be back and hear what people have to say.
So when you first joined our program, at least going back to those very early years, we spent a little time talking about a bridge in Hastings. How is the bridge in Hastings?
The bridge in Hastings is very good. They're actually still doing a little touch-up work on it, but it's been through some challenges, but it's a beautiful bridge and it's doing very well.
All right, very good. All right. So let's maybe start with you as the veteran legislator and talk a little bit about the conference committee, where the parties are at, and how that process works. Tell our viewers a little bit about that, because we are in crunch time here with a couple of weeks left to go in the session.
Well, we're down to the last week and a half. It's almost like we're having a little bit of a break here. The governor's fishing opener is this weekend up on Lake Vermilion. It's our hope that Senate Majority Leader Bach, Speaker Doubt, and the governor, my understanding is they're going to be fishing in one boat. I'm hoping they finalize the final touches of the agreement and we can move forward. But in regards to how it works, they appoint 5 members of the House, 5 members of the Senate to serve on a conference committee. And on our conference committee, Chairman Tomasoni from the Iron Range is chairing the Senate side, and I chair the House side. So we're going to work hard together to find a good compromise in regards to the environment and agriculture together. So I'll be working with Chairman Hamilton. We have 2 chairs in the House on ag and environment. Senator Tomasoni chairs that all in one committee, actually with jobs also. So
right.
We'll match up, we'll work hard, and I think we're going to do fairly well together.
All right, and we're going to come back to that topic, but let's talk about a topic that has been very much front and center all year with this program and throughout the legislative process. And let's start with you, Senator Chamberlain, because I think you've been working on the K-12 issues, and that's this question of pre-K and sort of overall support for K-12 education and where that's likely to go. We'll start with you, and then we'll go to Senator Schmidt here. Let's see how that issue unfolds.
Well, you're right. I believe K-12 is one of the most important, if not the most important thing we deal with at the state legislature. It has to be for obvious reasons. It's my opinion, and some of my colleagues share this, that the Senate K-12 version, the Republicans had a good proposal that funded classrooms and focused on those priorities. The governor and the Senate, DFL Senate, I believe, underfund the classrooms and misappropriate dollars, misprioritize the dollars into programs that most of the schools and the superintendent said they don't want, don't need. They'd rather have the dollars in the classroom. There's a big gap between where the governor is and the Senate and where the House is. There needs to be, in our humble opinion, smart spending, effective spending in the classroom where it's needed the most, and we should not be using those resources in the pre-K, early childhood stuff that's unproven and not really required right now. We should focus on those necessary things, keeping the music teacher employed and working on some other ideas. We have a dyslexia bill that we're just asking for $19 million, but we've been left out of that equation. So there's a big gap. I don't know where they're going to come down. Some people think that the governor's legacy, he wants his legacy to be to K-12 and with the early childhood. The last thing on this is that the public school, the public funding for all-day 4-year-olds, it's just not a popular thing. The Senate DFL did not have it in their bill. The House does not have it in theirs. It's just not a popular thing. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that's going to be a big sticking point for all of them. So a big gap, and we need to, there's a lot of work to be done, reallocate the funds.
Senator Schmidt, your thoughts on the K-12 bill and the differences between the caucuses in the Senate and then more globally?
Well, first off, I'd give Governor Dayton a great deal of credit for elevating the issue of early childhood education. I think his target for education spending, E12, was admirable, and I think that's what we should be focusing on going into conference committee here is putting our dollars towards education. On the Senate side, we decided to focus on a couple of things. One is school readiness, and we have $65 million for that. It's not quite as encompassing or bold as what the governor is proposing, but it is a step in the right direction for early childhood.
And that is early childhood.
Absolutely, yes. And from a lot lot of the districts I represent, this is the sort of funding that they'd like to see. On top of that, we have an effort towards school maintenance and facilities maintenance, a lot of aging infrastructure out there in greater Minnesota in particular, and it's important for us to put our dollars where our mouth is and try to hold down costs for our districts and our local property taxpayers. And then a priority that's just as important there is the formula funding. And I hear from my superintendents and school board members who have seen a drop in the state commitment to education in the last 10 years. A lot of, reserves were spent down at the local level, and our school districts are just getting, over that tough decade of funding. And so I would like to see us increase our target, actually, from the Senate perspective going into conference committee, and hopefully we're able to do more on the formula funding. But so much of this, hinges on that global agreement that has eluded us so far, and also what we do with the transportation piece.
Governor's bill, I think, was 1%. Am I right about that? And is that where the Senate wound up? The Senate bill wound up?
The Senate's at 1-1 right now.
Okay. On the House side, Representative McNamara?
Well, Barry, I think in regards to the pre-K part, I like what the House has, these scholarships. I think the governor is a little bit aggressive, saying we should go to all pre-K and now have a full-time program, public school only kind of program. I think we should leave it more with the families and leave it at home more. But I like the idea of scholarships for those in need, because the preschool programs are really important and do a really good job. I want to say I agree with Senator Schmidt that I think money on the formula is really the most important. And I myself would like to see our our House program come up for K-12 schools and be more. I really think we need a number more than one. It'd be nice to be 1.5, really. The schools I represent say they need at least that to make it work, and it's my hope that we can get there in the end. I think it needs to be. I always say that K-12 education, public schools should be the #1 priority of the legislature. It's the #1 thing we do is fund public schools.
Senator Chamberlain, any last thoughts on the formula piece?
Well, yeah, again, our proposal was 3-3 for the Senate Republicans, and holding off on mandates and any new expensive programs. I agree with Representative McNamara. Early scholarships are good. We had plans for also education savings accounts that would give parents choice and target those most in need. So we need to come up from there. They got some problems on the governor's plan. We just don't have the money to sustain. He's got $600 million in it already with nothing on the formula. It's just hard to sustain that sort of spending.
Senator Schmidt, the scholarship piece that the House mentioned that's in their bill, is that in the Senate bill or not?
We focus on the school readiness aspect of things. So, the scholarships was an approach that we've taken in the past, and we're not walking away from that necessarily. It's just important to recognize that approach doesn't work for all districts in Minnesota. And I heard from a lot of districts in greater Minnesota that wasn't the ideal approach for early childhood funding. So I think it's a good component of what could be a compromise in the coming weeks. But I think formula funding, I think it's great to see we're all in agreement. We'd like to raise that education target coming out of conference committee. And I think it's important not to forget the facilities piece as well.
Okay. We'll have a chance to come back to that. I'm sure our viewers will have questions about it. I'm going to start with you, Senator Schmidt, talk a little bit about broadband and rural economic development. That's an area in which I think you've had some things to say. Tell our viewers a little bit about what this session has had in it on those topics.
Sure. If you look at what we're trying to do this session in this space, it's build off of the momentum we created in broadband in the last couple of years. We created an Office of Broadband Development to try to break down barriers and silos in State Department, try to get technology to work better for how we operate in state government, and also for that office to serve as a conduit for local communities and providers that want to increase their network connectivity. We've also created our Border-to-Border Broadband Fund in 2014, and we had a $20 million commitment to that to extend networks in hard-to-reach areas in Minnesota. I guess most folks would agree we've got about 20% of the state that lacks access to basic broadband at 10 by 5 service, 10 megabits per second down, 5 megabits per second upload, and that's actually a state goal. We want all residents, all homes in Minnesota to have that access by 2015. About 80% of the way there. That remaining 20% is hard to come by, though. And so what we did is we created this Border-to-Border Broadband Fund, trying to bring communities together with their providers and cooperatives to think about new ways to extend networks. And in our first round of funding, we had 40 applications, 17 of them were awarded funding. And this summer, we're going to see over 6,000 households connected with high-speed internet, hundreds of businesses, and over 85 community institutions like libraries or hospitals or schools. And so what I'm hoping to do this session is build off of that momentum. And right now I'm a little disappointed with what we're seeing. On the Senate side, we see about a 15% cut from $20 million down to $17 million. On the House side, we only have $8 million, 60% cut in that broadband fund. And I can't tell you how important it is for us to meet that state speed goal. We've got to put some dollars behind this effort. And so I'm hoping in the closing week of session here, we're able to rally around some additional funding for this border-to-border broadband fund. Because you look at our communities around Minnesota, if they're going to compete, they really have to have that high-speed internet access, whether it's for distance learning or starting a home-based business, taking part in telehealth, whatever the application might be. But so many folks lack that basic access right now. And, you know, we had about a year and a half ago, we had a mini tour going around talking to communities. And one thing that I heard in community after community is it used to be that the first thing a family would talk about if they were thinking of moving to a small town in rural Minnesota, how are the schools? You know, we all value education around this table and in Minnesota. But increasingly, the first question that a small family will ask, and what's the broadband connectivity like? How good is the internet? And so our communities are competing with each other on this. It's so important that our families and our businesses and our towns have access to high-speed internet. And I think if Minnesota is going to be a leader in this space, if we're going to give our communities a chance to be world-renowned and attract businesses and keep folks in rural Minnesota, I think it's important for us to invest in this high-speed infrastructure.
Senator Chamberlain, any thoughts on this?
No, he covered. I think it is, I would agree, it's important to get that. I suppose it's mostly the last mile stuff that becomes very expensive and costly to get the remote homes and businesses. But it's important to do it, and we have to make sure it's done fairly and equitably.
Well, it is a good thing. I mean, we want people to have internet access and have good access. The concern is are we banking too much on old technology? But in the interim, these people need the internet. So, you know, the House is definitely less than the Senate, so we're going to see how that comes out in the compromise.
So let's talk a little bit about transportation. And to start with you, Representative McNamara, I think you said you're serving on that committee. And
I am for the first time, yeah, in 7 terms.
There are some differences of opinion on that. So let's start with you and then go to Senator Schmidt. So,
you know, I'm excited. The House proposal, the Republican House has got a great proposal. $7 billion of transportation money over the next 10 years, prioritizing without tax increases. I think that's a great proposal. We're going to have a good discussion with the Senate. The Senate's taking a little different approach. We don't really have House support for a gas tax. I don't think it's the right time. We have a surplus. We have a good opportunity. The one thing that's really encouraging is how we're all agreeing roads and bridges need to be a priority. We need to spend more money now on roads and bridges. We just have too much congestion, too many people caught, too many potholes, and all the challenges without spending enough on roads and bridges. So I look forward to the discussion, and as we see this unfold very quickly over the next 4 or 5 days, hopefully, so that we do all get done on May 18th, which is certainly everyone's goal. It's my hope that we come together and find a way to bridge the differences in transportation. An interesting one I have, a bill I'm authoring, is to raise the gross vehicle weights on trucks to allow 2 more axles, and us to become more consistent with our neighboring other states. It's really a great thing for rural Minnesota to help lower our road construction costs. Safety is really not a factor. MnDOT did a study. It actually showed that the 7-axle trucks are just a little bit more safe when you take into account that you have 20% less trucks on the road. So I'm hopeful that in the end we reach a global agreement on transportation, include some reforms like trucks that are more consistent with the truck weights that we have in other states. And the only way it's more weight is having more axles. It allows for bridges to still be posted if they need to be posted for weight limits. So it's some of the reform that I'm hoping we can include in the transportation bill.
Yeah, I think the idea that transportation is an important topic was settled in the elections in 2014. I think just about everybody running for office was talking about the great need for roads and bridges and a robust transportation network in Minnesota. And now the challenge is how we fund it. And I'm heartened to see the House and the Senate, I think, move closer to appreciating the magnitude of the problem. The experts tell us we're underfunding our transportation system maybe $1 billion a year. And so now the challenge is, all right, how are we going to pay for this? And I think that the Senate's position, the governor's right there with us, we've got to be able to tap some new revenues, because we're coming off of a period in which the last 15 years Minnesota's been on the revenue roller coaster. We've seen a string of budget deficits plague our state and our local governments and our schools, and we don't want to put ourselves back in that position where we're taking out of the general fund through shifts or other gimmicks and creating a hole. And it's one economic downturn away from being in that repeating cycle of deficits again. And so my mentality here, and I think a lot of my caucus members would agree, we want to be conservative with this budget surplus we have right now. We've already passed a bill that puts $250 million into our reserves. I think that's important to be prepared for the next economic downturn. I think it's also important to make sure that we're not using too many shifts out of the general fund. And I'm concerned with what the House is proposing, a significant amount of money that would be shifted out of the general fund towards transportation. We all agree transportation, just like education, is a huge focus for the state. It's one of two things listed in our state constitution that we ought to do. But I think it's also important for us to have a sustainable, dedicated funding source. And the gas tax, like or hate taxes, the gas tax is constitutionally dedicated for roads and bridges. I think it's worked pretty well for us in the past, and I think we've got to look at a way of raising revenue, whether it's the gross receipts tax or the gas tax, whatever it might be, raising revenue, and hopefully we can find a compromise with the House in what you're proposing. We know we're not going to get our bill that passed the Senate floor, and we hope that you understand that you're not going to get exactly what you passed the House floor. I'm on the Transportation Conference Committee, and I think there's a good group of folks who are problem solvers there that want to get a deal done.
What is the status of the various, has there been Senate and House action yet, or is that yet to be completed?
On the transportation issue? Yeah, we met for the first time yesterday.
But there have been bills that have passed the Senate and the House and are ready to go to conference?
Absolutely. We actually, the conference committee members have been named. The committee itself met yesterday, and we adopted some same and similar language, actually. We took 3 provisions from the Senate, 3 provisions from the House, so I think we're setting a good example for a conference committee that can get work done.
Senator Chamberlain.
Well, you started off correctly. There's a big difference. There's $2 billion in differences. I'm going to start by saying also that the GOP plan that the House and Senate have, the GOP plan, is a smart plan. It's a good plan. It respects Minnesota citizens, and it doesn't raise taxes. Yes, the governor and the Democrats have been ignoring this for 2 years. We had a plan last year to add some money for transportation in the bonding bill. The governor of the DFL did not take it. So I'm glad that the Democrats and the governor have decided that they'd listen to Minnesotans and say, we need to work on our roads. So the House, Senate, GOP plan, smart, good, shifts money, makes things more efficient and effective, and puts the money, uses the money in priorities. Very clear, very solid, very good. There's an alternative to raising $2 billion in taxes. The tax plan for the transportation bill that the Democrats have proposed is very unpopular with the citizens, very unpopular. It should go nowhere. We have other alternatives to go after first. I think in the end they will or should come to an agreement. It's hard to envision in a year with a $2 billion surplus and with all these other ideas that they would fail to lead and let us not and lead us to a point where we don't have a transportation bill. So again, we have a smart alternative with the GOP plan, House and Senate. The citizens do not support and do not want another tax. They do not believe they need it. And we're focusing on the priorities. So that's where we're at.
If I could just add, in defending Senate Democrats, in 2013 we actually passed a transportation funding bill, and it's clear that the cohort of freshman senators take this very seriously, and it's something that we've been talking a lot about both in committee and in caucus in the last couple of years. I think the whole discussion about transportation funding and education funding, for that matter, really comes back to this whole notion of this surplus that we have. And I think if you peel the onion on the surplus, you realize it's not as robust as you might think when you consider inflation and one-time money. money, that $2 billion gets peeled back quite readily. And so we don't have the money in an ongoing basis to devote to transportation. I mean, if we're serious about solving this $1 billion annual transportation funding shortfall, we've got to find some new revenue. There's no better mechanism than the gas tax, and that's essentially what the Senate and the governor are proposing.
So we have a remarkably well-informed group of viewers, and they pay attention to what you folks are doing. And so we have a viewer from Minneapolis who says, in his opinion, his or her opinion, this session we have seen unprecedented use of omnibus bills. What are your thoughts on this method, and can we expect to see more of this in the future? Now, I don't know if we've seen unprecedented use of omnibus bills or not, but let's talk a little process here. What is an omnibus bill? Is he or she right about this, and should there be changes made? Who wants to take a run at this?
Well, I would say that if you ask most legislators, there's good and bad with om bills, right? The good part is that you get a bunch of stuff done fairly quickly, because there's a lot of bills that comprise a transportation bill or a K-12 bill. On the other hand, they can be poisoned real quickly. So there might be a lot of good things in an omnibus bill, but if someone sticks a lot of bad things in there that somebody else doesn't like, then you have a lot of trouble with it, and it gets to be political. Omnibus bills have been around a long time. Some of us would like to maybe see them go away, but they can be helpful, can be efficient, effective way of dealing with government. All the bills in an omnibus bill are heard in committee. They're debated at length, and before they get put in there. So there's good and bad about them, and I think most legislators would agree with that.
And probably not likely to change anytime soon.
No, I would agree.
What do you think, Representative McNamara?
Well,
Thoughts?
As the chief author of the House Environment Policy and Finance Bill, which is an omnibus bill, it's the finance bill for the PCA, Bowser, DNR. We do have a lot in an omnibus bill. That's what their purpose is. And I get people's frustration. Sometimes they'd like to have it all divided up more. From a practical standpoint, that's not realistic. But there should be a limit. You know, by law, they're supposed to be single subject. So we need to follow that and be careful. But there is a purpose. It is to do, for instance, the finance bill. For the environment arena should all be in one bill, and I certainly understand where people are coming from. Some that watch government a lot think we bundle those things up too much, but I will say in the past there's been some really, really huge ones when we've gotten down to crunch time where arguably you could say maybe things were put together too much. I haven't seen that happening.
Do you think, based on your experience, that our viewers right, that there's more of use of that this year, or is it about the same? This is one of those things I suppose it's pretty hard to quantify.
I'm not sure I would say there's more this year, but, we're still a week away, so maybe some stuff will get bunched up a little bit. I mean, to be honest, we have a lot in our environment omnibus bill this year. We have a fair amount of policy. We actually have the game and fish in it, different than the Senate. But our committee, different than the Senate, is the Environment Policy and Finance Committee. So that made the challenge. That's all under one committee in our jurisdiction. But in the Senate, the environment is divided up differently, and actually Senator Tomassoni has the finance for 3 different committees that we have in the House. He has the finance for jobs, ag, and environment, and those are 3 different finance committees in the House. So it is a challenge to put it together, but we've divided it up pretty well now, so I'm thinking we can come together.
Thoughts on this?
I would just add, I think the omnibus approach is a necessary evil. There's no way that we could pass out these small provisions one by one on the Senate or House floors. And I think it's an opportunity for our committee chairs to put together a vision or a package of policy. What I think is disturbing this year, though, is you see so much policy language in our finance bills. And I don't mean to take a shot across the bow here at our House colleagues, but I think we're seeing a lot of that, in your chamber. And that's concerning, because it'd be nice to be able to divide the policy from the finance. And you have folks who spend a lot of time in the committee process working on one or the other, whether it's policy or finance, be able to do their work in a related conference committee. And so that's something that, hopefully we're able to get through that in the conference committee process moving ahead. I think ideally you'd like to separate the policy from the finance as you're putting these omnibus bills together.
We have a viewer from Little Falls who wants to talk about trapping. Legislature, he thinks, has not been as effective as it should be in stopping trappers from killing hunting dogs, and wants to know if the legislature is going to deal with that issue in any way in this session. Who wants to take a run at that?
I could speak to it. Yeah. We actually had assembled a game and fish bill on the Senate side that is not going to be making its way forward. In part because its language ended up in a finance omnibus bill. But we did. So I've been dealing with this challenge for a little while here this session. But I think it's clear that there's more and more concern around Minnesota in terms of hunting or recreational dogs getting caught in traps. And so the question is, are there any common sense solutions to this? And we had a couple of ideas that came forward on the Senate side, just to set back off of state trails or roadways, just to get the traps out of the high-frequency areas where dogs may run with their owners. I think that's a common-sense proposal that I think could work well. It would also allow trappers to be able to maintain a line virtually anywhere in the state they'd like, and just get it off of those high-use trails and roads. I think that's something that we could hopefully rally around in the future. I know Senator John Hoffman had a very, encompassing approach to safe trapping that was heard in our Energy and Environment Committee, and hopefully he's able to continue to build a coalition around common sense approaches to safe trapping. Obviously in Minnesota we've got a rich tradition of hunting, fishing, and trapping. You want to preserve that tradition and that legacy. You also want to recognize that a lot of folks use our trails and our great outdoors for different reasons, and so having a safe environment for those folks as well and their dogs is an important thing to strive for.
And I actually authored that bill in the House, getting the conibear traps off away from the road right away and from state trails. It did not get included in the House game and fish bill, even though I am in the majority and I was the author of that bill. And so you can understand, Chairman, that I'm open to the idea of that coming into our committee. I think it's an issue that's important. We want to protect hunting dogs and maintain the strong trapping tradition in Minnesota. So I'm hopeful that we can continue a discussion there.
Any thoughts on that?
I agree.
All right. Viewer from Edina wants to talk about transportation, noting that eventually transportation everywhere will be taxed or paid for by use. The more miles and more weight, the higher the fees. Wouldn't a massive bonding bill be a good idea here to deal with transportation issues? Who wants to take a run at that? Senator Chamberlain?
I believe using bonding dollars, capital dollars to help with transportation infrastructure is a good thing. It's a good use of those dollars, and we can do better with it. I and some of my colleagues for years have been saying the bonding dollars should be used smartly and not to build more bike paths and museums and theaters. We have important needs. The priority should be infrastructure, those things that make the state go and make our commerce go. So we can use more bonding dollars, capital dollars, on our roads and infrastructure. That's part of our proposal in the House and Senate GOP, to leverage more bonding dollars and put them to good use.
We do bond out of the Trunk Highway Fund on a regular basis. And so I think recognizing the fact that there are great long-term needs in transportation infrastructure, and we right now have relatively low interest rates, it is a good time to use bonding for that investment. But it's also important to recognize that the magnitude of our transportation funding problem is to the level of $1 billion annually. And so every other year we tend to have a bonding bill at the legislature that might be $1 billion total. So if you're talking about using bonding to solve our transportation problems, you're essentially removing all those great projects of regional significance that do get included in a bonding bill, and you're devoting all those dollars to transportation alone. And so I think the challenge here is how do you get the right balance here? I think it's important to leverage our bonding capacity in Minnesota for our transportation network, but we also have to recognize that our bonding bill does more than simply transportation. And so we can't possibly just rely upon bonding for transportation infrastructure.
I think bonding could play a bigger role, but it's certainly not the all-encompassing answer to transportation. I think that's the gist of it.
Right.
And there's not going to be a bonding bill this session. Am I right about that?
You want to bet?
Well, I'm simply reporting what the newspapers say. So
I can tell you the Senate's working on our bonding bill, and we recognize the fact that there's a backlog of great projects out there, and interest rates are as low as they've been, and it's a great time to be bonding for projects of regional significance and other economic drivers out there. So count me as an optimist.
What do you think, Senator?
Well, I've only been there 5 years, but it's true when they say, it's not done until it's done. Until we get out of there midnight on the 18th, nothing can be said exclusively and conclusively. So, but I would doubt they can put together a bonding bill within the next week and a half or so.
Well, we'll see what happens, as they say. Viewer from Aitkin wants to go back to DNR issues. What are we going to do with the DNR who, in this viewer's opinion, has mismanaged the Mille Lacs moose and deer reduction? If anybody's talking about the DNR and deer and moose mismanagement.
I can go first, Senator Schmidt. What I would say is the DNR has made some mistakes in deer management. I think clearly, if you go back 5-6 years ago, we took too many antlerless deer, especially in northern Minnesota. And following a couple years of taking too many, we had a couple really bad winters, and it was kind of a triple whammy on the deer herd. And now everybody's kind of pointing the fingers at the DNR and saying you need to do a better job. There's going to be an audit. We're not exactly sure how that's all going to play out, but to kind of evaluate where we are in regards to the deer. In regards to the moose, it's troubling. Our moose population is just crashing big time. Interestingly, on Isle Royale, the moose population is skyrocketing upward, but the interesting thing is the gray wolf population on Isle Royale has crashed. There is only 3 gray wolf left on the island, and there's 1,200 moose. So we are seeing there's clearly a relationship between gray wolves and moose. That's not the only answer in northern Minnesota, but we actually have now suspended the collaring of the wolf calves because of concern of abandonment by the cow moose in that process. So there's some interesting things going on. It's scary, the thought that we would lose the iconic moose in Minnesota. Both the gray wolf and the moose are important heritage animals for us in northern Minnesota, and we need to keep them both. We've got some challenges there.
Yeah. Our Game and Fish Subcommittee on the Senate side, every year when we get together, we ask DNR to come in and talk about population management. And the deer population is something that's been on a lot of folks' minds around Minnesota. The one thing I've learned is that a combination of a very successful hunting season and a tough winter, you get a couple of those in a row, and you can really see precipitous declines in deer populations. And to the contrary, you get a couple of easy winters and maybe a lower deer harvest, and the populations can rebound in short order. So, we're optimistic that the DNR is learning from what's happened and that we're going to have a better, hunting season and deer harvest in the years ahead, and the population around the state is going to increase. As for the moose, I think that this is a difficult problem for DNR to get its hands around and fully understand what's going on here. And I just hope that we continue to devote resources to understanding this better. And we don't know what it's tied to necessarily, but this is an important part of our heritage in Minnesota.
I can talk about water.
So let's talk about water. Go ahead.
I agree with them that wolf moose are important for the state, and I would agree people give the DNR a hard time and they should be held accountable, but I think they'll get it back on track. So,
how about higher education? This is a funding year for higher education as well. Where are we at with that and the differences between the House, Senate, and the governor? Who wants to take a run at that? Senator Chamberlain?
Of course, it's always important. I'm always, myself and some of my colleagues are always looking for efficiencies and effectiveness with higher education. And there's disparities between MnSCU and U of M. There's always a competition there for the dollars. I'm a big supporter of the MnSCU system of Metro State and other colleges like that. We need strong, vibrant institutions, but we need to hold them accountable. We talk about tuition freezes, and we're talking about administrative costs at the U of M. So those are important things to consider when we're working on those budgets, and some equity. One of the things that is important, too, is you'd be surprised to learn that credits do not easily transfer between these institutions. And it's really quite shocking. I think it's partially a competition and some proprietary stuff, but we were working on straightening that out. So we need to keep the institutions. We need them strong. We need some accountability, some cost controls, some efficiencies, and there's some other things we have to work on for the students, like credit transfers, so it's easier for them to do it.
Yeah, I think the higher ed discussion really fits into the budget challenges Minnesota's had in the last 10, 15 years, and we saw higher ed take quite a hit in much of the 2000s. We're getting back on our feet here, and I think we've had a run of tuition freezes at our MnSCU and U of M systems. Hopefully we can continue that moving forward, and I think it's just important for us to recognize we're not out of the woods just because we've had a couple of years of tuition freezes. We've got to make sure that they're getting the resources they need to hold down tuition, and that, to your point, Senator, that we are expecting accountability, and that every dollar that the state or students devote to higher education in the form of taxes or funds or tuition, they're used to maximum return. And so I think that's an ongoing conversation. And I know on our side, Senator Bonoff has done a remarkable job in trying to hold the higher education institutions accountable, and hopefully moving forward we strike that right balance between direct state appropriations, accountability, and also investment in facilities at our higher education institutions so that they can be vibrant environments for learning in the years ahead.
And I'm glad to see us holding the line as much as we can. The House is focused more on MnSCU, really making MnSCU affordable for all our students. And I think we have had two large increases over the last 15 years, as Senator Schmidt said, in regards to higher ed. I'm glad the last few years it's been much more reasonable, and certainly hope over the next two we'll come up with a package, and it looks like we will. That will be pretty good to higher ed.
Senator Chamberlain, I want to pursue just briefly this question of credit transfers, because it was my understanding that was an issue that had been percolating some years ago, but apparently it's not resolved yet.
It is not resolved, and it's still a difficult issue, and they have been working on it this year, and as Representative McNamara has pointed out, I think they're getting closer to a solution, but I was frankly surprised, as many people were, that it was so it's still such a problem.
So there's been some concern about DHS funding, and a viewer from St. Paul is concerned that there have been cuts to what she describes as cuts to homelessness programs, and she's indicating that decision doesn't make any sense to her. Let's talk about DHS funding. Talk about it on the House side first, I guess, because I think that's where a lot of the attention is focused.
Well, Barry, there has been a lot of attention. We in the House have followed a model of Illinois and other states where they've looked for fraud, folks that are getting public assistance that aren't eligible, aren't deserving, or are in the wrong program, or sometimes even are getting less than they should be. They should be in a different program that's better for them. And other states have gotten significant money returned for investing in those investigations. And Minnesota is one of the last states in the amount that we spend on looking for fraud in the system. And so we're getting the least back. I think it's important we look at that and follow that. People want that money spent. We want the people that are eligible for it to get the money. I think there's legitimate questions. How realistic is the House in its proposal? We think it's got good legs to stand on. We think it could really bring real results to Minnesota. It's more of a long-term picture. It's not going to get everything done in the first couple of years, but we would like to see some reform there, because we do want to take care of the homeless and the physically and mentally challenged and the senior citizens that need to be taken care of. And we prioritized nursing homes and group homes, and so we're hopeful we can do some good increases for them. But I will tell you, I think that area of the budget will be the biggest challenge. We talk about transportation, K-12, higher ed, the environment, and the different areas we have. But I think the differences in DHS and Health and Human Services are going to be the real challenges for the leadership to come together and find where can we come together. I think Chairman Dean and why can't
Senator Laurie?
Yeah, Senator Laurie. We don't want to refer to him by his first name, and it's and so thank you. But I think the two of those, the two chairmen there, have to come together and find a way to, and the administration to get, because that's a big issue. It's huge.
Senator Chamberlain, any thoughts on Department of Service?
I would agree with my House colleague that we want priorities, and the priorities should be those people most at risk. And too often we see that the money's not getting there, or it's being put other places. And whether it's homelessness, or we focused on the PCAs, the personal care attendants, and the 5% increase in the nursing homes, things like that. But it's about priorities and putting those dollars in the right spot in the best way. That is our focus and always what we're trying to do. Throwing money at problems is just not the way to do it. We're looking for outcomes, good outcomes for people. And too often that gets left behind, and we forget it. People forget about that. And that's not what we have to do.
I agree with both my colleagues here. I think it is important to be focusing on priorities that have a return on investment, smart money into programs that work. Likewise, I think this is an area of the budget that we're going to have the biggest difficulty with in the closing days of session. And of course, nobody wants to see Health and Human Services spending crowd out worthy investments in other areas of the budget, whether it's education or transportation. But I also think that Health and Human Services is a part of our budget where it's easy to be penny wise and pound foolish, and recognize that maybe there's some initial cost savings by not fully funding a program this year, but we're going to end up having a significant burden because of the consequences of that lack of funding in the out years down the road. And so what's that sweet spot? How do you expect program reform and accountability, but also making sure that you're giving these programs the funding they need to succeed? And I think that's that sweet spot that we strive for. And I think legislatures in the past have struggled over this very issue, and I imagine this is going to be a tough conversation for us in the closing days of session. But we have to recognize that these are important programs. They serve a very vulnerable population in Minnesota, and we want to try to get it right and try to make Minnesota's approach to Health and Human Services fit under the federal blanket of reform that we're just adjusting to right now in Minnesota.
So I want to do credit to the viewer's question. Does anyone here know specifically about cuts to homelessness programs? Does anybody know anything about that?
Not
I don't.
specifically.
Okay.
No.
We have a question from a viewer from Alexandria, who wants to know about House File 1864 reducing state funding by $30 million. But I have no idea what the viewer's talking about. Does anybody else here have any idea what that's about?
1864.
House File 1864, not the year. Lincoln's second election, not the year, but House File 1864.
And reducing
State funding by $30 million. Anybody know what that would be?
That would, no, I don't.
So I remind our viewers, it's always helpful if you tell us what. Our panels are very smart and very talented, but very few of them have photographic memories and may not recall the specific bill. So if you give us a little description, that's really helpful. What about legacy funding? We have a viewer from Leonard who's concerned about this. This viewer is particularly concerned, he or she is particularly concerned about legacy money dedicated to acquisition of private land in Clearwater County. We may not know specifically about that, but this is also a year.
Or we may.
Well, or we may. We may. So good, we'll start there. But we'll also talk about the legacy bill generally. Let's ask you, Representative McNamara. We'll treat that as an invitation.
Well, I don't know if maybe I walked into a hornet's nest. Barry, the viewer is referencing a project in Clearwater County that would purchase approximately 2,000 acres of potlatch land, and it would be owned by the White Earth Tribal Nation.
Potlatch, of course, is a company. They own the land, and the idea would be to purchase it from them.
Private landowner, a lumber company that's divesting a lot of their interest in Minnesota. They're selling some to other private landowners. They're selling some land to the state of Minnesota, which we're preserving. And this is a proposal to sell 2,000 acres, and we would. The proposal was to use legacy money to buy that land, and then it would be given to the tribal nation. There's a couple of challenges there. Clearwater County is a county that has 37%, if I remember right, public ownership already. There's no payment in lieu of taxes normally in a Clearwater or in a tribal nation when it gets the ownership. I understand the Senate just passed a bill today, but I think they have an amendment, a novel idea on paying PILT on this land, and maybe Senator Schmidt or one of the senators here can talk about that. But in the House, we did not include the proposal. It was a recommendation out of Lessard-Sams, but it's not included in our House bill as it passed the House floor because of our concern of the tax consequences for the local county and the loss of PILT. The tribal nation will be able to set some of their own hunting and fishing regulations that would be different than the state, and that's a challenge for some folks. They So that's some of the challenges there. I'm hopeful we can find a solution that works for all. I happen to be involved in that discussion, and so we'll see how that goes.
Senator.
I would just echo, I think, the framing that Representative McNamara provided on the topic, and I know it's a challenging issue, but hopefully in conference committee, and I know you're going to have a seat at that table, a gavel in your hand, hopefully we're able to work that out. And I couldn't describe exactly the arrangement that was brought forward in the amendment, but I know that there is something that hopefully is amenable to all parties involved.
Again, I agree. It is the legacy bill itself is not. It's dedicated funds. It's there. It has to be spent. A lot of people have issues with how it's spent, and $316 million every year for the legacy bill. That's what the number was today in the Senate. Dedicated funds, it's allocated out. Some people don't like the way it's done. They would like some of the money to go other places, but it is what it is. As far as the issue that the listener, the viewer has brought up, it is one of the perennial problems. Should we be using state money, legacy money, doing that, and then transferring it over? So Representative McNamara did a good job explaining the issue. There was an amendment on the floor today, and it did not pass, but maybe it'll have some legs in the Conference Committee.
And so our viewers understand this. Lessard-Sams is the Citizens Committee that makes recommendations to the legislature. The legislature ultimately has to appropriate the money. Mm-hmm. And so the legislature is not required to use the recommendations of Lessard-Sams. Have I correctly stated how the process works?
Right.
Are there other differences between the Lessard-Sams council recommendations and the recommendation or the legislative action, for example, on the House side?
That's really the biggest difference, that single project. Lessard-Sams is 1/3 of the dedicated money. That's, it's a 3/8 dedicated sales tax, as Senator Chamberlain had said. 1/3 of that 3/8 is the Lessard-Sams habitat money, if we want to call that the habitat money. Then another third of it is the clean water money, and then the final third is a combination of parks and trails and the arts issue. And all three of them have become fairly popular in their own right. And clean water money has got a Clean Water Council that makes recommendations. On the habitat money, the Lessard-Sam make recommendations for those two pots of money.
All right. Anything else on that? Let's move on. Let's talk about 50-foot set-asides. We have viewers who are concerned about that.
Is it time to go?
Is it time to go yet?
Time up. Where's the red light?
You've got a couple of minutes yet. You're not going to escape without talking about. Who wants to talk about where we stand? We do have only a couple of minutes left. Let's talk about where we stand on the 50-foot thing. Who can give us an update on that?
Well, I'll just say, I give Governor Dayton credit for elevating this issue. I think this is something he's very serious about, and those of us who are concerned about water quality, we know, whether it's nitrates or other issues, that this problem is serious in Minnesota. I think as you look at this legislative session, it may be challenging for us to be able to do everything that the Governor has asked us to do, but I think the issue has been elevated, and I look at an opportunity for Senator Chamberlain and I. We serve on the Legislative Water Commission, and I think it's a great venue for Democrats and Republicans from the House and the Senate to be able to tackle the complexities of this issue during the legislative interim this summer and into the fall, and hopefully come back next session with some consensus items for how to promote clean water in Minnesota. That's not to say we can't get some significant things accomplished this year. I think there are some elements out there in the bills moving forward that would do that. I just think the all-inclusive approach is going to be difficult this session.
Senator Chamberlain, water.
Yeah, I'll just take 30 seconds here. Then he's on that. You raised the issue. There are concerns, but you can't just take 50 feet off of people's property and say, too bad, so sad. You had to have some work there. And the conversations I've heard lately are addressing that issue, and there might be a fix and some compromise there to take care of that issue, protect the water, but make sure that landowners are protected as well. You just can't do it.
I've been real encouraged recently. The governor has noted that he needs more flexibility than just a uniform 50 feet. There's actually been really fruitful discussions just in the last few days with agricultural community, environmentalists, the governor, Bowser Director Jaski. They're working real well. Senator Skoye, Representative Torkelson. I think you're actually going to see this come together. The governor and Ag are going to, I think, in the end, be standing together and say this is something we're excited to do together. I think you'll see something significant this year that the Ag community is going to say, you know what, we can go along with some things here.
Other water issues, Senator Chamberlain, do you want to mention?
Well, one big issue, we're trying to, myself and Representative Runbeck and others, bipartisan support to, in the metro area, we do not have a comprehensive, cohesive water management, supply management process. It is bifurcated. We have 6 or 7 agencies trying to do something. So we've got a bill that's bipartisan. It's it was included in the House bill. We're trying to get it in through conference on the Senate side. That will rearrange, it won't create any new committees, but it rearranges how we manage water in a metro-wide instead of just pieces of the metro. So we'll look at the entire metro a la transportation. How does all this water work together? How do we best manage it? How do we work together? And then reporting up to the legislature instead of throwing it off to some unelected body. So more efficient, more effective, smarter way to manage our water region-wide and hold the legislature accountable for that through the Water Commission.
So this, the one remaining topic that we've had a question about, actually we had a question earlier this year about, was constitutional amendments. I know there's a constitutional amendment that is going on the ballot in 16 dealing with compensation-related issues. A lot of these questions come up in the off year or the shorter session, which would be next year. Are there any other constitutional amendments moving in the legislative process?
None that I've heard.
Not seriously.
No, right.
And then our last question as we go out, how about a prediction as to whether or not we get out on time constitutional deadline? We've got less than a minute left. Senator?
I'm an optimist. I'm going to say yes. Hopefully the governor and the speaker and the majority leader, if they don't catch fish this weekend, they work out a deal.
This is a good thing. Senator?
I'm optimistic. I want to be optimistic about it. We should be able to get out. If not, there's some issues to talk about.
Well, I certainly hope we will. I don't know if you define getting out on time. What if it takes us a few extra hours a day? No, I'm hopeful. We've got a lot of work yet to do. But, they're talking. That's encouraging. There's not finger-pointing going on, so that's encouraging.
Very good. I want to thank our panel. Again, great program. It's an opportunity to get the questions from the viewers and get your answers. We're hoping that you'll join us next week and in the remaining week. I guess we'll have maybe 2 more weeks, and we're hoping that you'll be with us as we finish up this legislative session. Thank you all, and good night.
There's much more about Your Legislators online at pioneer.org/yourlegislators. Find out more about the history of the program, who's been a guest, and watch all of our past episodes. There's also a photo gallery, informative links, and much more. You can also get involved and stay in touch by following us on Twitter and join us in the discussion on our Facebook page. Thank you for watching Your Legislators. Major funding for Your Legislators is provided by Move Minnesota, a statewide coalition fighting for a 10-year commitment to fixing our dire transportation needs. A safe, reliable transportation system strengthens Minnesota's economy. Join the conversation at movemn.org. Additional funding provided by Flaherty and Hood has provided quality legal and legislative services to clients in Greater Minnesota for more than 20 years. Our legal team focuses on municipal employment and environmental law, while our lobbyists energetically represent clients at the state capitol. Online at flaherty-hood.com. MAPE members, making Minnesota Clean Water's safe communities, quality education, and veterans care happen. We work hard for Minnesotans.